You open your eyes, and the first thing you see is a post-it note stuck to the ceiling above your bed. It says, "Does the jump feel good?" You put it there 3 weeks ago, on a night when you came home at 11 p.m. and lay down still thinking about a physics parameter you couldn't get right. And in the dark, you wrote the question on a yellow square and pressed it to the ceiling so it would be the first thing you saw in the morning. You have been asking yourself this question, in one form or another, for the past 7 months. You have adjusted the variable it refers to, the arc of a jump in a game you are building, 47 times. You know it is 47 because you keep a log. Not because anyone asked you to keep a log. Because you are the kind of person who keeps a log. You work for Nintendo. It is a Tuesday morning in 2024, and you are a game designer at Nintendo's Entertainment Planning and Development Division in Kyoto, Japan. And the game you are building is not yet something you are allowed to describe to anyone outside the building. And it may not be finished for another year. And every single day between now and its release will contain some version of the question on the ceiling. Does it feel good? This is the question that runs everything at Nintendo. Not does it work? Not is it technically impressive? Not does it have the most polygons, or the largest open world, or the highest resolution? Those questions matter, but they are not the first question. The first question is always the same one. Does it feel good? And the depth of commitment to that question, the degree to which it is taken seriously as a design constraint, as a filter that everything else must pass through, is something that takes most new employees a year or two to fully understand, because it sounds simple and it is not simple at all. Feeling good is one of the hardest engineering problems in the history of interactive media. You know this because of the jump. The jump is not a complicated mechanic. A character presses a button, a character leaves the ground, a character returns to the ground. But contained within that simplicity is a set of parameters: the initial velocity of the launch, the arc of ascent, the apex hang time, the acceleration of the descent, the feeling of the landing. That together determine whether the player experiences the jump as something that happens to them, or something they are doing. The difference between those two experiences is what Nintendo spends years caring about. Games where the jump happens to you are fine. Games where you are the jump, where your fingers feel the weight of the character, where you anticipate the arc, where the landing satisfies something in your body before your mind has even processed what occurred. Those games are why people remember Nintendo decades later with the specific, unjealous affection reserved for things that were genuinely good to them. You sit up. The post-it note stares at you. Not yet, you think, but getting closer. The commute to the Nintendo campus in Kyoto takes you through a city that wears its history lightly. Ancient temples visible between convenience stores and vending machines. The Kamo River catching the early morning light in a way that changes your mood reliably, every single morning, even on bad development days. You find that you think about the game differently on the train than you do at the desk. The desk is for solving. The train is for seeing. Some of the 47 jump adjustments came directly from the train. You arrive at the campus. The building is quieter than the games that come out of it might suggest. Not chaotic, not loud, not the open-plan free-for-all of many game studios. It is organized, methodical, and the energy it runs on is closer to a workshop than a factory. The energy of people who care deeply about the thing they are making, who are willing to spend an unreasonable amount of time on a single parameter, because they have been taught by the culture of the company and the evidence of the games it has made, that the unreasonable amount of time is what the difference between fine and wonderful actually costs. You sit down at your workstation. On your screen is the build from yesterday, the 47th iteration of the jump. You put on your headphones. You launch the build. Your character runs across the test environment. A simple gray platform floating in empty space. No graphics, no sound design, no art, just geometry. And you press the jump button, and the character leaves the ground and you feel it. You feel it differently than you felt iteration 46. Something has changed. The apex hang time, the moment at the peak of the arc where the character seems to pause, weightless, before gravity reasserts itself, it's fractionally longer than it was yesterday, by approximately 40 milliseconds. 40 milliseconds is less than the time it takes a human eye to complete a single blink. But the body does not experience time the way the eye does, and the body is what games talk to first and fastest, and 40 milliseconds at the apex of a jump is the difference your hands are now telling you between a jump that feels adequate and a jump that feels like flight. You sit with this for a moment. You play it again and again. You call over your colleague, a level designer named Tanaka-san, who has been your feedback partner on the jump for 3 months. And without saying anything, you pass her the controller and watch her face. She plays it a second time. She looks up. Better, she says. Not done, but better. This is how Nintendo makes games. Not in dramatic breakthrough moments, not in the mythology of sudden inspiration that most people imagine when they think about where games come from, but in the accumulated patience of this. A team of people playing the same thing repeatedly, adjusting a parameter by 40 milliseconds, playing it again, saying better, not done, better. The culture was built this way by Shigeru Miyamoto, the designer of Donkey Kong and Mario and Zelda, and the man who is arguably more responsible for the grammar of what video games became than any other single individual, and whose central design philosophy, refined across 4 decades of making things, can be summarized in a phrase he has used publicly. A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. This is not a motto. This is an operating principle that has survived multiple console generations, multiple industry shifts, multiple moments when the competitive pressure to release faster was enormous, and Nintendo released more slowly anyway. And the evidence for it, sitting in the memory of anyone who has ever played Super Mario Bros., or The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or Super Mario Odyssey, or any of the games that came out of this building with the patience to ask the jump question 47 times, is that the operating principle produces results that the alternative does not. The afternoon brings a playtest. This is one of the most important and least glamorous rituals of game development at Nintendo. A formal session in which people who are not on the development team play the current build of the game, while the developers watch, silently, and take notes. Not ask questions. Not offer explanations. Watch. The watching is the entire point, because a game that needs to be explained is a game that has not yet solved its own communication problem. And at Nintendo, the game is responsible for communicating everything. If a player hesitates at a junction, the level design needs to look at itself. If a player misses a mechanic entirely, the mechanic needs to look at itself. The player is never wrong. You watch a tester play the level you have been working on for 4 weeks. They reach the jump section. They press the button. The character leaves the ground. And you watch the tester's face, not the screen, the face. And you see something you have been trained to look for. The slight forward lean that happens when the body is engaged, when the jump has pulled the player in, rather than simply executing in front of them. The tester lands. They jump again immediately, without pausing. This is the data point you needed. When a player jumps again immediately, without the beat of hesitation that indicates they are still catching up to what the game did, the jump is working. The jump is doing what a jump is supposed to do, which is not to simulate the physics of a character leaving the ground, but to make the player feel briefly, completely, joyfully airborne. The jump feels good. You write it in the log. Iteration 48. Approved for current build. In the evening, after most of the team has left, you stay for another hour. Not because there is a crisis. Because there is a sound effect. A small audio clip attached to the landing, the moment the character's feet touch down, that you added yesterday, and that you have been listening to for 2 hours in your headphones, varying its pitch and duration, in increments too small for most people to consciously detect, because your ear tells you it is not right yet, and you trust your ear. You are adjusting a sound that will play for approximately 0.3 seconds in a game that will sell many millions of copies. The adjustment you are making involves a frequency shift of approximately 8 hertz. No player will ever consciously notice this change. Many players will feel it without knowing they are feeling it. The way you feel the quality of a room without being able to explain what makes one room feel warmer than another. The 8 hertz matters because everything matters. Because the job you are doing here is not to make something technically correct, but to make something that a person, sitting on a couch anywhere in the world, holding a controller, maybe 7 years old, or maybe 40, will feel in their body before they understand it in their mind. You get it. You know you have it because you feel it. You save the build, you close your workstation. You put on your jacket, and you walk out into the Kyoto evening, the city dark and lit, and ancient and ordinary all at once. And somewhere in the back of your mind, the jump is still running, the character arcing through the empty gray test environment, the sound of landing resonating at exactly the right frequency, the game being assembled piece by piece, parameter by parameter, 40 milliseconds at a time. You open your eyes, and the post-it note on the ceiling asks you the same question it asked this morning. Does the jump feel good? You smile, and for the first time in 47 iterations, the answer is not yet. The answer is yes.